One of the most prolific and beloved writers of children's literature is Roald Dahl. His fantastic stories, magical tone, and unique characters made him unequaled in his field, even now. While other storytellers have surpassed his sales, none have that same spark found in any of his books. Of his 17 books, 7 have been adapted to the screen, including my favorite, Matilda. While the basic story about a genius girl so frustrated by adults that she develops superpowers is the same, there are clear differences between Dahl's original and Danny DeVito's feature. Why is Matilda older? Why is it in America? What's Pee Wee Herman doing here?
917. Suspect exits domicile.
Adapting a book into a movie is a big ordeal, but making a Dahl book is a feat. Roald Dahl was a gifted storyteller who knew how to connect to kids without talking above or below their level. Thus, the Dahl estate is very protective of the late writer's rights.
For the privilege of adapting one of his stories, they must first get permission from the Roald Dahl estate and prove that they could think like a child the way Dahl could. Only a handful of screenplays pass the test.
A large part of Dahl's magic is the way that he writes children. Not only does he supply their voice and characterizations correctly, but he distorts the world through the same lens that a child would see the world through. Roald Dahl grew up with his several siblings in the care of his widowed mother. When he entered school, according to his father's wishes, he was enrolled in a prep school called St. Peter's. Dahl's years as a student are chronicled in Boy, Tales of Childhood. Here, he recalls terrible headmasters, a sadistic matron, and young boys bonded together through common fear. With this in mind, the attitudes and images of adults in a Dahl story are deeply rooted in experience.
Listen, you little wiseacre. I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little.
And I'm right and you're wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Dahl best describes his attitudes here.
I certainly see myself totally on the side of children when I write books for children. It's very important, this, because most adults have forgotten how children are thinking. You really do get into it. It's quite fun.
If this is the secret to Dahl's writing, then it is important that Dahl's vision transfer through to the adaptation. This is the charge of Lissy Dahl, who judges potential scripts for adaptations, seeking that certain undefinable Dahl quality.
The wit and the charm and the spooky and the...
Longtime actor-director Danny DeVito felt that he was up to the challenge of capturing Dahl's voice. Mara Wilson, the child star who portrayed Matilda in his adaptation, recalls his attitude towards the project. Mara says, "I had a great time filming Matilda. Danny DeVito understood, the same as Roald Dahl, that children like to be empowered. He asked me to design a doll Matilda would make with household objects, and with the help of some gifted technicians, we made her a reality. When I was nervous about filming a scene where I had to dance, he insisted that every crew member on set that day had to dance as well. When I turned 8, he had a giant cake shaped like a red ribbon, the Matilda of the film's signature, delivered to the set with hundreds of balloons and an ice cream cart. There were plenty of kids around, and we came up with secret codes and handshakes." The movie had many changes. Some were minor, like the before-mentioned signature ribbon. Others were large expansions of short or non-existent scenes. New sequences were added, like the never-ending FBI stakeout.
Los Angeles County. And this was a Code R. Code R is the official way of saying we've caught a bad one.
The Trunchbull hunting Matilda through the manor. And the most satisfying revolution in the history of film. Though the purist in me says that every adaptation must follow the source material without deviation, the expansions make sense. In the book, the Wormwood family flees without any previous setup that Matilda's family was in trouble. In this case, having the FBI introduced early not only communicates a later payoff, but it builds Matilda's character in a new way. In the movie, Matilda's character is even more empowered by being able to outsmart 2 fully grown FBI agents.
Aren't you supposed to be in school, young lady?
I really hope you have a search warrant. According to a constitutional law book I read in the library, if you don't have one, you could lose your job or even go to federal prison.
It's your father who's going to federal prison. And you know where you'll end up?
In a federal orphanage.
If you cooperate, we'll make sure it's a nice orphanage.
The kind with food and teeny-weeny cockroaches.
What do you say?
There's another crime in the making. Your car is about to run a stop sign.
Another thing that the film establishes early is Matilda's powers. Watch this original scene in which Matilda's father forces her to watch television.
I'm fed up with all this reading. You're a wormwood, you start acting like one. Sit up and look at the TV.
Users are not liable for any skin irritation. It may result from playing our game. Get real sticky and get cash for free. All right, that's enough. Let's get sticky!
These two examples are great ways to take what exists in the source material and fan it out to have more significance. Other choices place Matilda more clearly in the role of the protagonist. Her breaking into the Trunchbull's home and braving the most terrifying Olympic athlete elementary school headmaster known for hurling little girls a mile by their pigtails makes Matilda a braver character than in the book. While in the book, Dahl has a minor character cheer on Bruce Brogtrotter and give him the strength to beat the Trunchbull, DeVito gives Matilda the power to defy the headmaster.
You can do it, Brucey! You can do it, Bruce!
And she becomes the first voice that topples the regime. In fact, the Matilda of the film is sort of a badass. Reading Boy and knowing what Dahl stands for with his children protagonist, it's clear that this is in line with the author's vision. As much as Dahl fought back against the school and other adults, heck, he even put a dead mouse in a candy jar to get back at a miserable shop owner, where do you think that Newt story came from? Matilda follows the same wish fulfillment. Dahl uses civil disobedience and pranks to get by, but in his later fantasies, he vicariously places the power to rebel in Matilda.
Look!
So when it comes to prolonging that victory from a cunning trick to give an old woman a heart attack, to instead having the powerhouse monster of an authority figure rise again, try every trick in her arsenal, get beaten at her own game, run for it, and have the entire school rise against her for Matilda's actions, I think the changes are tremendously faithful. The movie matches the tone when the story gets dark, such as the appearance of the torture device, the chokey. And it hits the right notes of triumph as the book does.
She's a spectacularly wonderful child, and I love her.
While some things aren't perfect, either due to the nature of the industry, or my own personal bias. I mean, look at Miss Honey. That's not Miss Honey, that's Ash's girlfriend from Army of Darkness. This is Miss Honey. I know squiggly lines don't really translate well to the screen, but maybe you can squint. Yeah. DeVito set the movie in America because he couldn't know what Dahl's experience was, and couldn't possibly be faithful to Dahl's autobiographical fantasy about Norwegians being from New Jersey. And while the setting is DeVito's, the Trunchbull herself is still Dahl's. Others attempting to adapt Dahl have encountered the problem of distance with his source material. Swycourt notes the need for changes.
There's a little tweaking that always goes on when you're trying to make things fit into kind of a dramatic construct.
When Henry Selick wrote the screenplay for James and the Giant Peach, he took inspiration from the artifacts of Dahl's process.
One of the most thrilling moments was simply to see the original first draft of James the Giant Peach in Roald Dahl's handwriting when everything was different. It wasn't a peach, it was a cherry. He'd changed things along the way to make it better, and it gave me a little sense of liberty in making some of the changes I felt necessary in making the film.
Does taking liberties make an adaptation less faithful, or does relating a story to your own experiences make it more relevant and thus genuine in another manner? Though it may have its flaws, the movie was profitable, internationally acclaimed, and one of the most successful adaptations of Dahl's work. And being that Dahl adaptations are each wildly different, from the stop-motion James and the Giant Peach, to the all but forgotten, dark and cold The Witches. It is a testament to the effort put into the film when Matilda can still be viewed to this day and not feel off, out of place, or dated. When the source material still shines through after several revisions and being crammed through the director's eye, it's something to be proud of. And it doesn't just shine, it's so damn magical and captivating that it keeps on captivating generations for years and years.